Tonight, Turkey rocked as bombs target police outside a soccer stadium. A spotlight on elder abuse, how to stop financial exploitation at the hands of loved ones. Sun, surf and drones. We take a closer look at the technology watching over our oceans. And the new national effort to solve hundreds of missing persons cases. Good evening, you're watching ABC News Sunday. I'm Juanita Phillips. Also tonight, Chief Foreign Correspondent Philip Williams is in Wellington with a lesson or two for Australia.
With just 2 Prime Ministers so far this century, New Zealand has been a model of political stability. So why haven't they got caught up in the poll-driven populist politics that have affected so many countries, including Australia? We'll look into that a little later in the program.
But first, Turkey is on high alert after yet another terrorist attack. At least 29 people are dead and scores more injured after 2 explosions rocked Istanbul. The attack targeted police officers who were stationed outside a stadium for a soccer match. Tonight, 10 people are in custody for questioning.
Within seconds of the first blast came another, disrupting a live television broadcast inside the stadium. Nearby, a group of musicians were also shocked by the impact. The explosions were quickly followed by warning shots and sirens, as the area was urgently sent into lockdown. The Prime Minister's office imposed a media blackout. Just a couple of hours earlier, Istanbul's Beşiktaş Stadium had been filled with fans, watching a football match between 2 of Turkey's top teams. Authorities say the car bomb was detonated on a hill overlooking the stadium. The second attack is said to have been caused by a suicide bomber. Their target, buses carrying riot squad police. The Interior Minister called the perpetrators vile and treacherous.
This is a cruel and heinous attack. Our colleagues are assessing the 2 explosions.
Officials say fans and players had already left the venue when it happened. Most of the victims were police and security.
I saw policemen inside the bus that was on fire. I think there were many wounded.
I was rocked inside my car and hit my head. Seconds later there were guns fired and policemen were shouting.
It caps off a violent year of unrest and upheaval in Turkey that's included an attempted coup and subsequent crackdown, along with multiple terrorist attacks. June's strike on Ataturk Airport was blamed on the Islamic State group, while 2 earlier bombings were thought the work of Kurdish militants. It's still not clear who was behind today's deadly assault. Marion Ives, ABC News.
The Syrian government has regained almost complete control of Aleppo, but it's left them exposed on other fronts. For 9 months, the ancient city of Palmyra was free of Islamic State. Now it's fallen back into their hands. With more, here's Middle East correspondent Matt Brown.
Islamic State fighters have been on the offensive to retake Palmyra for days. They broke through Syrian army defences and secured the mountains before moving into the historic city. Government forces drove the jihadists out 9 months ago after mass executions and the destruction of ancient monuments. The Syrian army's focus now is on Aleppo, 200 kilometres away. Backed by Russia, they're close to capturing the entire city. Russia says more than 1,000 rebels have surrendered, but many say they'll never leave, and pockets of resistance are met with brutal force.
Those are parachute bombs being dropped over Aleppo. There have been more than 20 airstrikes since this morning, and the shelling is incessant.
In Paris, Western and Arab foreign ministers are trying again to broker a ceasefire, and they're demanding people be allowed to leave the conflict zone.
The indiscriminate bombing by the regime, which violates international rules of law, of war, in many cases crimes against humanity and war crimes, needs to stop. And those who support it, those in Moscow and elsewhere who have supported it, should do their utmost to bring it to a close.
They want want Syria and Russia to agree opposition fighters in Aleppo won't be marching into a massacre if there is a ceasefire. The exodus of civilians is growing. More than 50,000 people have fled the besieged city in the last 2 days. The Syrian government says it's close to victory in Aleppo, but it faces new battles on other fronts. Matt Brown, ABC News.
A second day of searching has failed to find a fisherman who was swept from rocks in Sydney's east. New South Wales surf lifesavers today used a drone for the first time in their search for the missing man. It's hoped the technology will help cover more ground and reduce the risk to rescuers in challenging conditions.
This is not a drill. The search of water around Sydney's beaches saw the rescue chopper joined by a drone.
So this is the first that Surf Lifesaving has taken on board the search and rescue process with a drone.
It's part of a growing push by Surf Lifesaving New South Wales to embrace technology. The drone not only acts as extra eyes on the water, but can also be a safer alternative.
It's low-level flying close to cliff faces where things go wrong. So everyone needs to be on their game. We can have 15 people around the TVs in the command centre. Ultimately, that's 15 sets of eyes, whereas in the helicopter you've got 2 sets of eyes with the crewmen and the rescue crewmen.
On the north coast of New South Wales, drones are being used in shark spotting patrols. And now the machines are being trialled to drop essential life-saving equipment for swimmers in trouble. A 2-metre-long inflatable can be dropped from these machines. They expand when they hit the water.
We want to be able to talk to someone, tell them that help is on the way. We want to be able to see them in the first place, and we want to be able to intervene and give them the capability of hanging on to something.
Surf lifesaving has come a long way since the last century. Today, much more is expected of the volunteers. Some are already being trained in this new technology.
Surf Lifesaving New South Wales eventually wants these drones available at every branch, which means training its members in how to use these drones.
Any assistance that we can do with rescuing someone or searching for someone that gives Surf Lifesaving a better edge to hopefully recover or rescue someone, it's the way to go.
And that could see drones eventually rolled out Australia-wide. Liv Casbin, ABC News, Sydney.
Sydney's International Convention Centre is now open for business. The stakes are high. The state government says it'll pump $5 billion into the local economy over the next 25 years and play a key role in revitalising Darling Harbour. Ashley Raper reports.
Sydney's second harbour has a new centrepiece.
I'm impressed. It's a really grand, new, marvellous, expansive facility.
Where the old one stood, a new one has risen, and it's ready for business.
Do you think it's better than what was here before?
Oh yes, much.
What we have here built into this spectacular design is 3 separate facilities: a major convention centre, an expanded exhibition centre and a state-of-the-art red carpet theatre.
And what does this centre offer that the previous one didn't?
Certainly much more capacity, but it was 30 years since the previous one was built, so technology has moved on a long way from there. The industry's expectations are growing and we've met them.
The price tag was $1.5 billion.
At a minimum, about $200 million a year in terms of economic benefit. So that will drive the local economy. It'll obviously pay back this price in spades.
This theatre replaces the entertainment centre that's now been demolished. There are seats for 8,000 people in here and standing room for 1,000 more. But that's 3,000 fewer people than the old venue could hold.
While it is exciting, the first concert will be Keith Urban. I did lobby for Cold Chisel, but I lost that one. So hopefully Barnsley will get here at some point.
This week's concert is one of nearly 500 events that have been booked for the centre over the next 10 years. Ashley Raper, ABC News, Sydney.
Police say it's like looking for a needle in a haystack, putting a name to unidentified bodies. Hundreds of remains are languishing in morgues and laboratories across Australia. Now, a national database is being created to try to reunite the bodies of loved ones with their families.
This remote stretch of highway, lined by bush, is the final resting place of a mystery man.
So we've been able to establish that the remains are most likely a young adult male, and most likely of Aboriginal ancestry.
For 18 months, the Major Crime Squad has been trying to identify the skeletal remains found just west of the Northern Territory border. They've scoured missing persons files and door-knocked local communities, but no one seems to know who the man might be.
We've been able to extract a DNA sample, and at this stage there's no match to the national database, so no match on the DNA. That's an ongoing process now to hopefully find a match in the future.
Police are still hopeful of working out who this person was that appears to have died on this very remote section of highway. But the reality is it's just one of dozens of so-called John Doe or Jane Doe cases which remain unsolved in Australia. According to the Australian Federal Police, there are about 500 sets of human remains that have not been identified. Until now, there's been little coordination to try to match them up with missing persons files across state borders. But that's about to change with the creation of a computer database called the National Missing Persons Victim System.
What we're hoping to see through this system is the more we upload the unidentified human remains in the system, the more we might be able to find matches of someone who was reported missing either within that state or in another state and territory.
It's welcome news for the families of the missing.
Terrible not knowing what could have happened to him or where he might be now.
For 18 months, Perth woman Stephanie Fielder has been in a state of suspended grief as both she and the police try to understand why her brother Rigby failed to return from a visit to see friends. She's surprised it's taken this long to develop a national database.
Any information can be good if it helps solve that puzzle of where somebody's gone and what's happened to them. Hopefully, though, there's 500 families out there that, may get some kind of closure to their missing people.
It's expected to take about 6 months for every state and territory to enter the details of their mystery remains into the new system. It may be made accessible to the public at a later date. Erin Park, ABC News.
The Tasmanian Devil is the world's largest carnivorous marsupial and has endured a decades-long battle for survival. The species was introduced onto Maria Island off the east coast of Tasmania 4 years ago to create an insurance population, but it's come at a cost.
It's known as Tasmania's Noah's Ark. Maria Island off the southeast coast is different to other islands within the state's archipelago because the ecosystem has been engineered. In 2012, the Tasmanian Devil, a predator at the top of the food chain and pushed to the brink of extinction by the facial tumour disease, was dropped into the mix. Some say it was a devastating move.
We know that they have removed a penguin colony. They've completely a penguin colony at Darlington.
In a submission in 2012, BirdLife Tasmania warned the government ground nesting shorebirds were decreasing on the island and the introduction of devils would be the final nail in the coffin.
Really the question is how many devils should come off the island and how soon, and for the sake of the other animals there, I'd like to see that happen sooner rather than later.
Phil Wise is a wildlife biologist with the state government's Save the Tasmanian Devil program. He says many of the island species were themselves introduced to the island in the 1960s and 70s and believes they can adapt to survive.
It was always going to be a controversial thing, but what we find ourselves with now is an island population of an endangered species that may be used to repopulate areas within Tasmania where the facial tumour is really taking hold.
We don't have enough conservation resources in Australia, let alone the whole world, to conserve every single species. So we really need to think carefully about what those trade-offs are. I'm reasonably confident in this case that those trade-offs have been pretty well considered.
As for the shorebirds, BirdLife Tasmania says it's never had a formal response to its 2012 concerns.
We're going to start seeing further losses of other species on the island as the devils essentially munch their way through the different species.
Only time will tell. Peter Carlyon, ABC News.
In soccer, Brisbane Roar has extended its A-League unbeaten run to 8 games after defeating Adelaide United 4-0. Last night, Newcastle ended their drought in Perth, and a hat-trick from Melbourne victory star striker Besart Barisha swept aside the Western Sydney Wanderers.
He became this season's top A-League scorer.
What a night! He takes the lead in the Golden Boot race.
And Besart Barisha is now just one goal behind the all-time record as he silenced any
Checking the
doubters.
weather now, and fire danger is about to spike in parts of New South Wales this week as a blast of hot, dry wind heads east from WA. In Sydney today, it was a stunning summer's day, not too hot, with quite a brisk northeasterly keeping a cap on the temperature on the coast, a few degrees warmer though in the west. Around New South Wales, it was mostly sunny, although there were some light showers and storms about the slopes and ranges, particularly in the north. Temperatures along the coast hovered around the mid-20s under northeast to southeast breezes. It was much warmer west of the ranges, although nothing like the heatwave conditions we saw last week. It was a warm, sunny day for most of the capitals, with just a clearing shower in Hobart and a late shower in Perth. There's extensive cloud over central and coastal Queensland, bringing severe storms. The rest of the country mainly cloud-free under a high-pressure ridge. As well as that high, a low-pressure trough is developing across the northeast. The next cold front is expected to cross the state on Wednesday. As that hot air mass moves east, you can see temperatures dropping right back in Perth and building to the mid-30s in Adelaide and Melbourne. The heat will reach us in the next few days. Around New South Wales tomorrow, the warm, dry weather will continue under mostly clear skies. Winds will be east to northeasterly. Like today, there will be some very isolated showers and thunderstorms about the slopes and ranges. Over the next few days, the fire danger will reach extreme levels in the Riverina district as that hot air mass reaches New South Wales. Temperatures inland will be high as a result. A cool change is then set to move through southern New South Wales on Wednesday. In Sydney tomorrow, very similar to today, warm and dry with just the slight chance of a shower in the city's west in the afternoon. There'll be a strong northeasterly blowing along the coast. The sun will rise at 5:38 a.m. And in Sydney over the next week, the chance of rain will increase as we move through the week, but even then, only a few millimetres expected. And that is ABC News for this Sunday. I'll be back with an update in 1 hour. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Next on ABC and I View, Joanna Lumley's Japan, then Midsummer Murders, and later Girl Asleep is a journey into the absurd yet beautiful heart of the teenage mind.